In today's video, we're going to talk about how to find zeros of quadratic functions. Before we start, though, we do want to discuss a little bit of vocabulary. So the words zeros, roots, and x-intercepts, they're all synonyms, and they refer to the place where a graph crosses the horizontal or x-axis. So again, if you see the word root, you see the word zero, you see the word x-intercept, they all mean the same thing. It's where the graph crosses the horizontal axis. To find zeros by hand, we plug in 0 for y, or f of x, and then we solve for x. So in example 1, we're finding the zero of this function, f of x equals 2/3 x minus 8. So we're replacing f of x with 0. So we have 0 equals 2/3 x minus 8. Can add 8 to both sides, so plus 8 plus 8. And I have 8 is equal to 2/3 x. Come up here for some more space. So 8 equals 2/3 x. In order to clear out the 2/3, I can multiply the equation by 3/2 to clear out the fraction. So I'm multiplying through by that reciprocal. So 8 times 3/2, 8 times 3 is 24, divided by 2 is 12. So I have 12 is equal to x. So this graph crosses the the x-axis at the point 12, 0. So that's the root of that function. Okay? Example 2, what are the x-intercepts of y equals 2x squared minus 34? So I'm going to plug in 0 for y, and I have 0 equals 2x squared minus 34. So this is a quadratic, and in order to find the 0, this one's nice. I have a quadratic term and a constant, so I can solve by square roots. So I'm going to go ahead and add 34 to both sides. So that gives me 34 is equal to 2x squared. Then I would solve for x squared, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And come up here. 34 divided by 2 is 17. So 17 is equal to x squared. And then I would take the square root of both sides. So the square root of 17 is square root of 17 is 4.123 approximately. So my root of this quadratic function would be 4.1730. And remember, we want to do the positive and negative roots. So the other root would be negative 4.173 and then 0. And that's where the graph would cross the x-axis in two places, which makes sense if you have a parabola shape. Okay, two places where we cross the x-axis since it looks like a U. In example 3, what are the roots of 4x squared minus 9 equals 35x? So I want to set this equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides. So I have 4x squared minus 9 equals 35x. So I'm going to subtract 35x, subtract 35x. So I have 4x squared minus 35x minus 9 equals 0. This is a trinomial, so I'm going to try to solve by factoring first. Okay, so I need factors of 4 times 9 is negative 36. That add up to be negative 35. Well, that one's pretty straightforward here. It's going to have to be a negative 36 and a positive 1. So I'm going to put this into my grid. And up here I would have 4x squared. Down here I have negative 9. And I have a negative 36x. And I have a 1x. Alright, so I'm going to need a 4x and an x to make 4x squared. There's going to have to be a plus 1 here in order to get a positive x. There's going to have to be a minus 9 to get a negative 36x. And then just double check, negative 9 times positive 1 is negative 9. So my two factors are x minus 9 and 4x plus 1, all equal to equal to 0. Split that into two equations. X minus 9 equals 0, and 4x plus 1 equals 0. Solve this one. I have x equals 0, so my root here would be, x equals 9, would be 9, 0. And if I solve this one, I'm going to get x equals negative 1/4. So my other root, or my other x-intercept, would be negative 1/4. And then 0. So basically this is just solving quadratics, solving equations. The big deal is you have to know you have to plug in 0 for y, and these are the places where we cross the x-axis. All right, example 4. Suppose you threw a baseball into the air with an initial upward velocity of 29 feet per second from an initial height of 6 feet. The formula is h equals negative 16t squared plus 29t plus 6. This is basic physics. And this gives the ball's height in feet, h, at time t in seconds. How long will it take for the ball to hit the ground? So at the ground, my height is equal to 0. I think about the motion of this ball. Starts at 6 foot, so you have 6 feet. So you have a person probably 6 feet tall. Here's the ball going up and going down, and eventually we're going to hit the ground. So my height there is 0. So I have 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 29t plus 6. And I want to solve that for t. So if I look at here, I'm not positive that that can be factored right away. So this might be a good candidate to use quadratic formula for. So my a is negative 16, my b is 29, and my c is 6. All right, so I have x equals negative b, or negative 29, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 29 squared, minus 4 times a, which is negative 16, times c, which is 6, all over 2 times negative 16. All right, so I have x equals negative 29 plus or minus square root of, so I want to do 29 squared. Excuse me. That's going to be 841. Plus, minus a negative is plus, so 4 times 16 times 6, which is going to be 384, all over negative 32. Okay, under the radical, this is going to give me x equals negative 29 plus or minus square root of 384 plus 841, 1,225, all over negative 32. And next up, take the square root, 1,225, and that's 35. So I have x equals negative 29 plus or minus 35 over negative 32. So over here, so I have x equals negative 29 plus 35 over negative 32. Negative 29 plus 35 is 6. X equals 6 over negative 32, or, let's see, if I can divide them both by 2, so it's going to be negative 3 over 32 divided by 2 is 16. So I have negative 3/16. So that root would be negative 3/16 and then 0. And then the other root I would have is, and I'm going to go kind of continue across the bottom here, negative 29 minus 35 all over negative 32. So negative 29 minus 35 is negative 64. Negative 64 over negative 62. No, sorry, negative 32. So that's going to give me 2. So my other root would be 2, 0. So now let's think about this. We were solving for x, which is the same as t in this case. Which one of these makes sense when I have a height of 0? A negative 3/16 seconds or a positive 2 seconds? I can't have negative time, so the answer is going to have to deal with this root here, this 2, 0. Okay? So it will take 2 seconds for the ball to hit the ground. We can't have a negative time here. And if we think about it, if you think about continuing this arc back, this is time 0 right here. Okay? So if we continue backwards, that's where that negative 3/16 comes from. Because if I were to continue that parabola, eventually that ball would have hit the ground here.